Going back to the Gaelic Football Championship, and I'm delighted to say the Wexford football manager Shane Roche is with us. Shane, good morning to you.
Good morning. Good morning, lads. How are things?
You ideally would not be talking to us. You'd be preparing for another match this weekend. What was your experience of the Tailteann Cup like?
Look, the game itself against Offaly was, I would have felt it was a great advertisement for the Tailteann Cup. Two very evenly matched teams. And I went right down to the wire, and you'd see that then all over the weekend with London and Sligo as well. Carlow beating Tipperary. So it is a great competition. It is going to give out very competitive games. But I suppose for us, leading into it, I suppose the organisation, the North East South, one game preliminary round, then 2-game preliminary round. New York coming into the South, even though they're playing Connacht. So a little bit of I suppose, if we knew in advance, we'd be able to plan, like, for talk's sake, the day we played Offaly, we were due to play Clare in the challenge because we felt that there was going to be one preliminary round among 16 teams. So the chances of us being in that were slim. But then I suppose the week before we were told then there was going to be 2 preliminary rounds, and both of those games are coming out of the South region, which meant then that we'd gone from slim to 66% chance of playing. So, that sort of stuff. But my experience for the players as well after last Sunday was very positive. It's the right time of year to be playing games against the teams that we're competing against. And, after the game, I couldn't have been happier with our performance. And you'd be just itching for another game against a team of equal standing.
And I guess maybe this time next year you will get that extra game when they go to a group stage. There's some questions about whether or not that format will work for Sam Maguire. But from what you're saying there, I presume that that's a positive step for the Tailteann Cup at least.
Yeah, absolutely. The more, I've gone on record saying, trying to play the National League, we played Sligo early February, and it was 12-10 Sligo in Wexford Park. There was a howling wind. It was very poor showing of probably two teams that had trained hard for that game. But then you see last weekend or in some of the Tailteann Cup games, or even in our game, the quality of football, the quality of players, playing that in good weather. The more football that's played at this time of year, the better, I suppose, for our players and for our game.
Was it hard to pick yourselves back up after the Dublin defeat?
It wasn't actually, because in fairness, they're the most fantastic bunch of guys. They really are a connected group. We sat down on Thursday night and we had a right debrief, and basically Ben Brosnan summed it up. Ben obviously being the elder statesman of the group, he says, lads, I've played for Wexford since maybe 2007, and we've had fantastic teams, and people laud the players that we had. But I've won Division 3 medal to show for, and even though Wexford football was a powerhouse in maybe 08 to 2012, he had one medal, and this was an opportunity for us to go and get a national medal. And when that was said, it was kind of like, right, this is the way we're going, and this is how we're going to go about it. And I suppose as a manager, there was no player had come to me saying they weren't interested. They were, I can just view on their behaviours, and they were, once they came back on Thursday, we spoke, went out to train. I knew we were ready to go for the Tailteann Cup, and we were really looking forward to it.
And that motivation part is a huge factor, I'd suspect. So if you rewind then a couple of weeks before that, and knowing that you're drawn against Dublin, knowing that the chances of a medal in that competition as opposed to the Tailteann Cup were much slimmer, does that make that a more difficult prospect then to prepare for?
Yeah, I suppose we were absolutely delighted after the Offaly win, and I suppose then in one way you want to have a medal chance, but you also then want to compete against the best. So it's trying to merge that is probably going to be the difficult part. But for we leading into the Dublin game, we felt we could give ourselves a right performance and test ourselves against the best, even though we probably in the back of our minds knew that it was going to be very, very difficult to get a result. But and look, it turned out that way. But that's the motivation for us as a group, because they're very young. With the National League, we break it into 3 groups. The National League being successful and getting to Division 3, that didn't work. Then obviously the Leinster Championship, getting in a win in the Leinster Championship against Offaly to play against the Dubs. and then the next one would be in the Tailteann Cup to win that, but also then to get to Croke Park. So it's like it's learning on the job. So exposing young players to getting to Croke Park, to playing in Croke Park, to playing for national titles, that will bode well for Wexford football for the future.
What's your view now on the merits or otherwise of the Leinster Football Championship?
Look, it's well, you know, I suppose when one team has won 17 out of 18 years, 17 times out of 18 years, it's probably something, you know, that you could continue to do. But whether it's early in the year, it's probably, you know, it's something that's probably, and you see it with Munster as well, it's probably run its course, you know.
Because we'd Billy O'Loughlin on yesterday, and he said he'd had a conversation with the players about the radical proposal. He said more than likely, almost certainly, they will be in the Leinster Football Championship next year, but he'd at least floated the idea of not taking part from a Longford perspective and just focusing on the league, which is hugely important to them because it gives them games week in, week out against opposition that is of a similar level, but you can pitch yourself at and try and in their case they were trying to stay in Division 3, but next year I presume they'll be looking to get promoted, and then focus on the Tailteann Cup, because again, like that, you're saying, you know, Ben Brosnan's point, here's a medal that we could win. Personally feel like something radical, like counties deciding, actually, you know what, we're not going to take part in this because we have these other two competitions that are our priority, or something, would perhaps accelerate change.
Yeah, definitely. You know, and I would have spoke to Billy about that. We would have played a challenge leading in after the Leinster Championship, leading into the Tailteann Cup, and we would have spoke about, you know, we'd just come off the back of being beaten by Dublin and themselves with Westmeath. But then the other thing about it is, you know, if you speak to Liam Coleman, who picked up Brian Fenton, or Owen Porter, who picked up Conor Callan, if you ask them, would you like to, you know, compete against them, to learn off them? You know, we probably learned an awful lot from playing against Dublin. Now look, whether you do that earlier in the year or at different times, or you know, that's probably something that's going to have to be looked at. But you know, I suppose the players still want to get to Croke Park to play the bigger teams and test themselves against it as well. So you know, I don't want to take that opportunity away by, you know, boycotting it or standing away from it, because you know, it is only I suppose 1/3 of our overall calendar year. You know, we don't have to put as much emphasis on it, but if you got a nice draw, you never know where you could end up. So there's kind of, it's kind of, as I said, it's wanting to have your cake of win the medal, but wanting to test yourself against the best as well, you know.
It does feel that if the provincial championships were the first part of the season, I know we're kind of going over all ground and all proposals here, but that would be a lot better for everybody. I think that would give you guys a more realistic opportunity of taking out a big fish in that championship if it was the first competition of the season.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You know, and even for then what we showcased. So like we talk about being performance based, but our performance then against Sligo, you know, the Tipperary game was cancelled. There was a waterlogged pitch. There was high winds that day. So like any sort of training that we would have prepared for that game would have went out the window, obviously, because of the conditions. Where last week against Offaly, or the challenge games we had against Kildare, Longford, on hard ground and on nice pitches, you could try out what you've been training, and you could really expose the players to high levels of performance, right? You know, and that's my take on it, that we and our body type, like I was looking at it this morning there, we've 20 guys that are 25 and under, so they're only starting to develop and get, you know, fitter and stronger. And this time of year, looking out here now in Wexford and the sun's splitting the stones, this time of year playing football would be a great advertisement to for our guys, and but also for the kids of Wexford to be seeing, you know, lads like Martin O'Connor, Owen Porter, Liam Coleman, Paddy Hughes on this time of the year. But unfortunately now, you know, we're wrapped up and we're gone.
Yeah, and I think next year there's a guarantee of like 2 extra games for the round robin as well. It's not like it's going to be massively it's not like you're going to be playing football to the middle of July.
Yeah. No, like that's the thing. Like it's going to be like, it is so condensed, and like when I would always have loved this time of the year around the 17th of May, the preliminary round in Ulster, leading all the way through the summer months, every Sunday either having Munster hurling and you know, Leinster football, Ulster football, but then the qualifiers, and you know, you can go to games, get the games. But now it just seems to be I think Colin O'Rourke said at the weekend we played Dublin, there was 3 games, and then the weekend after it, I think there could have been 16 or maybe something along those lines. It was just seemed to be, we're going to run off these games and away we go. Like we would have felt, I suppose, as well as Carlow and Louth, when you're playing, a Division 1 and 2 team and you're given 6 days, even though the following week, there's only going to be 3 games on. Like, why couldn't we, we were going to play Dublin, we were going to go compete against them, but, we picked up a few knocks and bruises against Offaly, and some of the guys like Martin O'Connor, our captain, never trained leading into the Dublin game. But then I'm saying, Martin, you're picking up Kieran Kilkenny. So it was just kind of right. We'll give these lower tier teams, they get the preliminary round and we'll run them off straight away because they probably evidently know who's going to be the winners.
It kind of brings us all back to the circular arguments of the provincial championships don't really work. They're not fit for purpose. They're not helping counties like you to develop, and they're not helping the All-Ireland potential winners to develop either. It's just this weird, anachronistic hangover from history that we had a chance to do something about and decided, no, we're happy with where it is.
I look, I look at all the arguments, and I'd hope I listen to both sides, and not just my own opinion, but like it's evident like that the Anglo-Celtic Cup or Anglo-Celtic Cup in Ulster is the big one. It's the one that that the Ulster teams don't want whether to split or to give up their provincial medals, because like that is up there, and I know a good few guys up the north that to win an Ulster Championship medal is golden, and that's the big sway on probably any argument with talking about the provincials.
It's funny, but Christy McKaig's in the papers today saying it's great that we won this, but the system is still broken, where we've played a bunch of Division 1 teams and nobody else has played Division 1 teams who might beat in an All-Ireland semi-final. By the time the semi-final comes around, by the time the quarter-final rolls around, Kerry are at a quarter-final stage, Dublin are at a quarter-final stage, and they haven't beaten Division 1 and Division 2 teams. Maybe Dublin have beaten Kildare, and that's about it. I suppose Meath are technically Division 2 as well. Just about.
Dublin are Division 2 as well, let's not forget.
It's true. So anyway, look, the one last thing is your players all now go back to the clubs.
Yeah.
How do you make sure that you, as a group, maintain the progress that you've made? Is the split season going to work, or what are the challenges facing you as an inter-county manager now that the split season has kicked in?
Well, like we also have then a split season in Wexford, so our guys go back now and they'll probably play 10 weeks of hurling. And then the next time they'll probably get football in their hand will probably be the end of August, start of September, and obviously that's dependent on Dara and the Wexford hurlers, how far they go. But we split our club season as well, and what comes first now is going to be the hurling championship for a block, and then the football championship for a block. So what I found difficult last year was, and that was the first year we ran it that way, was players coming back that had been to a county football final, and they've played probably 16 weeks of club action, which was 8 to 9 weeks of hurling, and then 8 to 9 weeks of football as well. So like, how long do you give them for a break? So your pre-season is very limited. Your ability to do solid S&C work in what you call your off-season is very limited, and then obviously rest and recovery, because when they come back in November, December, our most important game is probably the 28th of January in the first round of the National League. Like, we would have probably put all our eggs in that basket for Sligo. We'd been away the weekend before on an overnight to Johnstown to play an away game to prep for the first round of the National League, to get off to a winner, to promote, to improve our standing in the National League standing, and that didn't work out. So I often read Jim McGuinness said, like, the best year Donegal had, they had a 16-week training or pre-season, but my lads will be doing hurling for the next 8 to 10 weeks, football then for the same, and then they'll come back in whatever shape, which is probably going to be very difficult on them as well.
Yeah, okay, that is a tricky balance to get right, but we wish you the very best of luck with it, Shane. Thanks a million for joining us. Cheers.
Thank you. Anytime.
Shane Roche there, the manager of the Wexford footballers, talking to us about life in the Tailteann Cup. They're out of it, obviously, after defeat to Offaly.